Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. There's a new word being tossed around in the personal finance space, and that is soft savings. It's a term being coined by the youngest generation, Gen Z. For most people, their goal is to work hard, save money, and retire early. But a soft saving trend is emerging among younger workers, challenging the traditional way of thinking. Soft saving refers to putting less money into the future and using more of it for the present. Now, this approach is literally the complete opposite of what was popular during the previous generation, which was hustle culture and FIRE, or financial independence, retire early. With this approach, the goal was to work really hard, save aggressively. I'm talking like 50, 60, 70% of your income, with the goal of being able to step away from the workforce at an early age, maybe in your 40s or your 50s. Those trying to achieve financial independence at a younger age are often willing to make more sacrifices today with the hopes of having greater abundance and more freedom down the road. Those adopting a soft savings approach are not willing to make those sacrifices today. In fact, when surveyed, 3 out of 4 Gen Z members said they would rather have a better quality of life than more money in the bank. A soft life is a lifestyle that embraces comfort and low stress, prioritizing personal growth and mental wellness. I think soft savings and FIRE represent two extremes, and most people tend to fall somewhere in between these two extremes. Most people don't want to try to aim to save 50% of their income. It simply asks for too much sacrifice today. The traditional recommendation is that you save anywhere from 15 to 25% of your income. But with inflation causing the cost of pretty much everything around us to increase, whether that's houses, autos, food, you name it, a lot of people are finding it hard to hit this 15 to 25% threshold. Their budgets are getting squeezed, and they don't want to have to cut back on spending on all of the joys of today, and this is where soft saving is coming in. But if you're going to save less for your future and for retirement, you're going to have to reevaluate when you might be able to retire. The average age for retirement in the US is currently mid-60s, and it's worth noting that for previous generations, the average savings rate was around 9 or 10%. However, for the past 20 years, outside of the pandemic savings surge, personal savings rates have hovered around 4 or 5%. A lower savings rate means that it's going to take longer to hit financial independence, to be able to step away from the workforce and not be dependent on the paycheck. And that really is the traditional marker of a traditional retirement, being able to step away from the workforce. But it seems as though the next generation is also redefining retirement. When it comes to millennials and Gen Z, 44% and 41% respectively say that they want to continue doing some form of paid work even in their retirement years. Perhaps this comes from gig work, part-time work, or even freelance positions. Compare that with only 31% of Gen Xers and 22% of baby boomers. If you're planning on working through your retirement years, you could need drastically less saved up in the bank or through your investments. And if you adopt this soft savings approach and lower your savings rate through your working years and then continue working part-time through your retirement years, this could be a viable solution. So if you're going to drop your savings rate to less than that recommended target, to say around 5% or so, as many soft savers do, realistically, you could expect that it's going to take about 65 years to reach financial independence. And again, if you plan on working during your retirement years, maybe that's not such a bad thing. There is great value in having an income stream in retirement. It has a profound effect on your investments and how much you actually need saved up to provide you an additional source of income. Perhaps you're familiar with the rule of 4%, saying that you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, adjusting for inflation in retirement. And if you follow this withdrawal strategy, it's unlikely that you would run out of money. However, the rule of 4% is really based on a more traditional retirement. And if you're doing a delayed retirement, maybe you don't have to be as conservative with your withdrawal. Instead, maybe you could use perhaps a 5% rate of withdrawal. So let's say you have a part-time position that brings in $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year. That's $2,000 a month you don't have to withdraw from your investments. That would translate into needing a portfolio that has $480,000 less than you would otherwise need in investments. That's a significant decrease. Basically, you could think of it from the standpoint of for every $1,000 that you generate in income and don't need to withdraw from your portfolio, that requires a portfolio that has $240,000 less in investments. I think in theory, the soft savings approach can work. You can deliberately save less during your working years, spending more on experiences, plan on delaying your age of retirement, and plan on picking up some part-time work in your retirement years. And if all of those things line up, it can work. but I don't think it's a great plan. Remember that I said soft savings represents one extreme when it comes to savings or financial planning, and I don't necessarily think that extremes represent the best approach. There's a saying in psychology of regression to the mean, and implies that over time, things tend to go back to normal, or what is average. And I think that's what's going to happen. I completely understand not everyone wanting to pursue financial independence at a young age. It requires a lot of sacrifice. And wanting to spend money on the things that you enjoy today and have those experiences and enjoy your life, that's incredibly important. It's incredibly important to spend your money on the things that bring you joy. Life can't be all about saving and investing, because what fun would that be? But just as saving too much money today comes at a very high cost, making too many sacrifices today, saving too little money today comes at a very risky cost as well. What if all those ifs that need to line up for this plan to work out don't? And what if you find yourself in a situation where you run out of money? I think the idea of continuing to work into retirement when you reach the age of 60 or 70 is not the best question to be asking someone who's in their 20s or 30s. It's a better question to ask people who are actually in their 60s or 70s. And as those percentages showed, people in those generations are less likely to want to continue working. There's a very good chance how you feel at 20 is not how you're going to feel at 70. And if you arrive at 70 with not enough in the bank to retire, you're going to have to continue working whether you like it or not. I do think we live in a time where work has very much evolved. There's a lot of work from home options and a lot of gig work available. So perhaps these types of options make it more attractive to want to continue working. But it is important to remember that life kind of comes in seasons, and how you feel today is not necessarily how you're going to feel forever. Social Security plays a huge factor as well. Many retirees rely on Social Security as a huge portion of their income in retirement. But as it currently stands, Social Security will definitely have to go through some changes in order to continue being there for future generations. Now, I'm not trying to be a doomsday or anything. I do think reform will come to the Social Security program in terms of lower payouts and delayed payouts, but I do think more of the burden of saving for your future and saving for your retirement will be put more on your shoulders. And the younger you are, the more important it is to kind of plan as if Social Security is not going to be there, because then once you get to retirement age, maybe you can look at Social Security as kind of icing on the cake. Health is a huge factor. And this is really where I think the biggest gamble comes into play with the soft savings approach, because health isn't guaranteed and things can change suddenly. According to Edward Jones, 40% of their clients are forced to retire earlier than they expected. And health situations play a huge factor in this. It could be your own health, it could be the health of a loved one, maybe you make the choice to step away from work in order to care for them. It could be that a disability pops up and makes it so you can't continue to work in the way that you once did. But when you're young and when you feel good, a lot of times you feel untouchable. You feel like a health issue is never going to happen to me. But it's important to remember that you can never foresee what will happen in the future. When I was 18, I went from thinking I was perfectly healthy one day to being diagnosed with a brain tumor the next, and that forced me to take a year off work and school. 2 months ago, I gave birth to our son. It was a very traumatic and unexpected birth because I ended up with eclampsia and I almost didn't make it through the birth. 6 weeks ago, my dad went from being perfectly healthy to ending up in the hospital. And 6 weeks later, we don't know if he's ever going to get out. Life is very unpredictable. Being that so many people are forced into retiring earlier than they expected, it might be a better plan to have a well-funded retirement, just in case you're forced to step away from the workforce early. Another large percentage of people are forced into early retirement through layoffs. Traditionally, it is the older, more experienced workers who have the highest compensation. And sometimes companies will try to nudge them into an early retirement with the attempts of trying to replace them with less experience and less expensive newer workers. Or as technology evolves, maybe it replaces a role or position altogether. Whatever the situation may be, it's a very real possibility that you may have to retire earlier than you expect. And if you're deliberately saving less, you may end up with less money than you need to fund the life you want. Keep in mind that America's savings rate has been low for quite some time, hovering in the 3, 4, 5% range. And presently, we have headlines like 80% of households of older adults are financially struggling today. I think this shows that saving less is not the answer. I think a better idea is to fall somewhere between the two extremes. Aim to hit that savings rate of 15 to 25% of your income. Make sure that you're spending a little bit on the joys of today, but also make sure that you're putting something away for the future. You don't want to save everything today and completely miss out on the joys of living your life, but you also don't want to save nothing today and put your future self in a very unfortunate position. Keep in mind that when you're young, your dollars are incredibly powerful. Putting away even small amounts and giving them decades to compound can go a long way to helping you on your journey of wealth creation. There is never a better time to invest than today. What are your thoughts on soft saving? Leave it in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.